ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table. The President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action. Under the previous order, the Senate will resume legislative session.
The United States Senate has officially confirmed Kevin Warsh as the next chairman of the Federal Reserve in a razor-thin 54-45 vote, the closest confirmation margin in the central bank's history. The former Federal Reserve governor and Morgan Stanley executive will replace Jerome Powell this Friday, taking control of the world's most powerful financial institution amid mounting economic uncertainty. Warsh has promised what he calls a regime change at the Fed, sharply criticizing the current leadership for being too political and overly dependent on market signaling. During his confirmation process, he pushed for a smaller Federal Reserve balance sheet, tighter discipline on interest rates, and closer coordination with the Treasury Department.
My understanding is that a signed ethics agreement provides duties and responsibilities on me and duties and responsibilities on the government, and that's what the nature of the ethics agreement is.
You have an agreement that within 90 days you will dispose of all your assets. Is that correct?
Senator, I have an agreement within 90 days so that there is no appearance of anything inappropriate, that I would divest all of my assets, the majority of which before sworn in. What I've disclosed, Senator, is all the information that is mine to disclose. I've shared all information about assets that I control and that I can share, which I did much to the satisfaction of the Government Ethics Office.
Excuse me. What you've said is that you will take the oath, if confirmed as chairman, with assets that have already been identified as presenting potential conflicts of interest. Will you agree to not take the oath until you have fully disposed all the assets that you've been identified?
Senator, I'll agree to take the oath pursuant to the terms of the ethics agreement that I struck with the Office of Government Ethics. I don't think anyone could do more than that other than me. I've agreed to divest even more assets so that I will have virtually no financial assets.
The divestiture is totally up to you. You can select what assets you're disposing of, what assets you keep. Is that correct? And then still be sworn in as chairman.
The divestiture is up to the agreement that I struck with the Office of Government Ethics.
Who makes the decision as to what assets are divested, you or the Office of Government Ethics?
Both of us. That's why it's an agreement.
Excuse me. I must commend you on the way you can circularly go around questions and not answer them. It's a skill. Unfortunately, it's not a good skill for the chairman or of the Federal Reserve Board. We typically ask questions and expect to get direct, faithful answers. You haven't given them to the ranking member, and you're not giving them to me.
Supporters say Warsh's experience during the 2008 financial crisis makes him a steady choice during a turbulent economic transition.
Mr. President, later today, the Senate will finish considering the nomination of Kevin Warsh to be the 17th chairman of the Federal Reserve. Leading the Federal Reserve System is an enormous task. The decisions the Fed makes affect Wall Street and Main Street and kitchen tables all across the country. So it's critical that we have people who understand not only the macro, the global economy and the markets, but who appreciate the microeconomy. And that's the hardworking Americans, their jobs and their livelihoods. Mr. President, Kevin Warsh is just such a person. He credits his knowledge of the real economy to growing up in upstate New York, where his dad ran a children's clothing store and manufacturing company. From Shaker High School, he went on to Stanford University and then Harvard Law School. He then started a career on Wall Street, but he shifted to public service, joining the Bush administration's economic policy team in 2002. 4 years later, President Bush nominated him to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And at age 35, Kevin Warsh was unanimously confirmed here in the Senate and became the youngest governor in the history of the Federal Reserve. Mr. President, being the youngest person to take a seat in the Federal Reserve's boardroom is impressive enough. But Kevin Warsh didn't just take a seat. He was a key player during the time he was on the board. Mr. President, Kevin Warsh seems to have just the profile of a Federal Reserve chairman. Yet Democrats oppose his nomination. That's right. For the first time in its history, the Banking Committee reported out a nominee for Fed chairman on a party line vote because every single Democrat opposed Mr. Warsh's nomination.
But critics, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, warn his approach could blur the line between the White House and an institution designed to remain independent.
Ask. You have $100 million in undisclosed assets. And what I'm asking is, are any of those with this outfit that invests in companies affiliated with President Trump or his family, companies that have facilitated money laundering, Chinese-controlled companies, or financing vehicles set up by Jeffrey Epstein? It's a yes or no question.
Senator, I have worked tirelessly with the ethics officials at the Office of Government
Yes,
Ethics.
and you have not
come to an
revealed
ethics agreement with them
$100
and have
assets.
agreed, Senator, to sell all of
That's
my
not
financial
my
assets,
question. Mr.
including
Warsh, are
the
you
Duquesne
refusing
assets.
to tell us if you have investments, for example, in vehicles set up to advance Jeffrey Epstein? Is that what you're telling us? You just won't tell us?
Senator, what I'm telling you is that those assets that you represent at Juggernaut will be sold if I'm confirmed before I take office and sign the oath of office.
Let me follow up on that. Will you at least disclose how you plan to disclose and divest these secret assets? I'm sure you understand that the public might question your motives if, for example, billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller, who you honored in your opening statement, and who makes a living guessing what the Fed will do next, cuts you a massive check for $100 million as you take the oath of office to become the new Federal Reserve Chair.
Senator, as you know, it sounds like your fight might not be with me, but the Office of Government Ethics. I have come to full agreement with them and have agreed to divest all of those assets,
I'm asking
especially
you a very
those that you
straightforward
referenced
question,
before
Mr.
I take
Warsh,
the oath of office.
And that is, will you disclose how you divest those assets, or will you just collect a check for $100 million from someone whose whole business is betting on what the Fed will do?
As I said to the ethics officials at the Federal Reserve and the Office of Government Ethics, they agreed,
I'll take that as a
I
no
would
as
be
well.
redeeming my assets
Donald
before
Trump
I take
has
office.
made clear that he does not want an independent Fed. In fact, he has said, and I quote, "Anybody that disagrees with me will never be Fed chairman." And he's made clear that you are his sock puppets, saying last week that interest rates will drop, quote, "when Kevin gets in." Yeah, I think they do. Not when economic conditions change, we'll get lower rates. Not when the economy needs it. Nope. He said, when my guy, Kevin Warsh, is in there, we'll get the interest rates that I, Donald Trump, wants. So independence takes courage. Let's check out your independence and your courage. We'll start easy. Mr. Warsh, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
We try to keep politics, if I'm confirmed, out of the Federal
I'm just
Reserve.
asking a factual question. I need to know, I need to measure your independence and your courage.
Senator, I believe that this body certified that election many years ago.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, did Donald Trump lose in 2020?
And I'm suggesting you in 2020, the
suggesting
Fed
you can't
made
answer that.
huge inflation problem, and you certified the election.
So let me ask you another
out of
question.
monetary policy.
In our meeting,
monetary
you said
policy out
you
of
would
politics.
be independent because you're, quote, a tough guy. Those were your words, tough guy. And you will be able to stand up to President Trump. So let's try it again. Name one aspect of President Trump's economic agenda with which you disagree.
Well, Senator, the Federal Reserve in recent years has wandered outside of its remit, wandered into other
I'm
areas.
asking for something
That's
you
not something
disagree
I'm
with
prepared
Donald
to do.
Trump on.
If I'm
Just
confirmed,
one
the Federal Reserve should stay in
economic
its
issue.
lane.
Just one little place where you disagree with Donald
Well, I
Trump.
do have a disagreement, actually, Senator, with the president. I think even this morning he said that he thought I was out of central casting. I think central casting, I'd look older, grayer, and maybe show up here with a cigar of sorts.
Inflation remains stubbornly high. Global tensions continue driving energy prices upward, and the administration is publicly pressuring the Fed to cut rates more aggressively. Warsh's first major test now comes on June 16th, when he chairs his first Federal Open Market Committee meeting. a moment investors worldwide are watching closely for signs of how dramatically America's monetary policy could change.
Cite a couple of reporters for a leading financial newspaper. I recall reading that story at the time.
Did you issue a correction?
I think those reporters either need better sources or better journalist standards.
Did you ask for a correction?
There are things in the newspaper, Senator, I see all the time that don't strike my ear as correct.
So it is, in your opinion, that the president then is lying when he said he did not ask you?
I can only repeat to you, Senator, what I said to several of your colleagues.
So you did not. You right now, under sworn testimony, are saying just to right now that the president of the United States in that job interview did not ask you to cut interest rates.
The president never asked me to commit to interest rate cuts at any particular meeting over the period of my tenure at the Fed. He didn't ask for it. He didn't demand it. He didn't require it. And nor would I have ever done so.
So if these reporters come back and say to do another follow-up on this and they confirm what they heard, what will your response be?
Well, my response would be what I suggested to you a few moments ago. As I read that story in real time, I remember thinking they either need better journalistic standards or better sources.
So, here's my problem, Mr. Chair and colleagues. And Mr. Warsh, I think you're incredibly qualified. But a lot of us are actually worried about the integrity of the Federal Reserve. We're worried about what this means for the economic markets, and we're worried about what this means for inflation. We're worried about your independence, and now we're hearing direct contradictions whether or not you were directly asked by the president to cut interest rates, and you're saying no, and he's saying yes. And I think for a lot of us, there's a question now of credibility. And I think there's a real reason why many of us are not voting no. As a matter of fact, until you verbally spoke to Mr. Kennedy and answered his question that he did not the president did not ask you to cut interest rates, this was not even going to be brought up. So there's definitely right now a true question about who is lying here. It's either you or it's the president.